So could you start off by telling us what attracted you to the project? What was it about these two characters?
Well, when I was a kid, I watched Mr. Peabody and Sherman as part of the Rocky and Bullwinkle show, and I loved them as characters. And so for years, I remembered them until about 10 years ago, and it was suggested that maybe I'd be interested in directing a film featuring these characters, and I jumped at the chance.
And I mean, I don't imagine that the amount of story that you've shown in this film was that taken directly from the series, or did you embroider on that? How did you sort of develop that storyline?
No, the series was actually a series of 6-minute shorts, and each was a separate adventure to a particular historical period where they'd meet a historical character. And so the feature film is entirely a new thing, meaning we had to tell a long-form story using the same characters, the same ideas in the same format, but quite different in terms of the development of the story.
And the three bits that we saw were really interesting. How did you choose which bits to go in?
Well, we've been, as I may have mentioned, we've been developing this project at DreamWorks since 2005, and so we've actually explored a number of different places for them to go, many of which have ended up on the cutting room floor. And so the ones that we ended up choosing for this film kind of worked on a number of different levels. They actually helped tell the story, the character journey of Mr. Peabody and his son, which is a father and son story, but it evolves over time. And so we wanted to make sure that these historical incidents actually had a reflection and an impact on the development of their character journey.
And I really like it as well. I think my son's going to absolutely love it. And the good thing as well is it has some historical references in it, and so he can learn along the way. And that's what kind of the beauty of it, really.
Well, that when I remember watching it as a kid, I think that's what I took away from it, which was that I could enjoy it despite the fact that I might not know who these people were, and that the shows would actually introduce me to ideas and to characters and to things that maybe later in life I would become more interested in and learn more about. But that was a great thing about animation.
I mean, the thing, it also appeals to adults. I mean, I was finding myself laughing in it, and also, I know, as I said, my son's probably going to love it, almost definitely going to love it. And films, animation films now, that tends to be part of the course, doesn't it? The fact that it has to appeal to adults and children. How important do you think that is, and how hard was that to get a balance?
Well, I think it's been important for a long time. When I was younger, again, I watched animated films, and when I grew up, I learned that the people that made them really felt that they were making them not necessarily for kids, but for themselves, that they really wanted to enjoy them. And this was true of Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. And so I guess I grew up believing that that was really the best way to approach it, that it was something that we could enjoy, not just for kids and not just for their parents, but somehow if you appeal to the child in yourself, you could make something that would appeal to everyone.
Talking about being a child, what were the animation films or cartoons that really appealed to you and that you can remember? What was the ones that stand out and why?
For me, certainly the Disney animated features were standouts. Pinocchio was one that I really, really loved. Dumbo, which was quite different. I also loved so many of the Disney films. I really had a connection to.
They all tend to pull on the heartstrings, the one you mentioned there. Is that important?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, when you're a kid, you have these incredible experiences in movie theaters, because you don't know about the world, you don't know about things, but you learn about them, and you can become impacted in such deep and meaningful ways. I mean, all of the earliest film experiences I can remember left a huge impression on me.
And you've been working in the business yourself for a long time now, and I imagine you've seen the technology evolve quite enormously. I mean, how does that affect the way you approach a film? Does it make it easier?
Well, what's interesting is that when I started in animation, it was traditional animation, which was done with pencil and paper, and you would draw everything or paint everything. We were starting to use computers at Disney at the time, but in a very simple way. And it's just become more and more and more prevalent, as time has gone on. And this is true not only of animated films, but of live action films as well. What's really interesting is that animated films used to have an entirely separate language in terms of the production, how to convey an idea, because you were using these two-dimensional forms to create a three-dimensional impression. But now, with computers, you actually are creating a virtual three-dimensional world that you use a camera in. And what we talk about setting up a shot, for example, in an animated film, it's exactly the same as it is in a live-action film. You'll talk about dollying the camera or panning the camera and doing these things which we wouldn't talk so much about in animation before, but now we do.
And I imagine it makes it a bit more immediate. Has it speeded up the process?
Well, I wouldn't say it's speeded up the process. The thing is that when you develop these new tools and techniques, oftentimes people say this will make it cheaper and faster, and the truth is it doesn't actually do that. It makes it more costly and take longer. But because it can give you the opportunity to do amazing things, to render these images in believable, realistic light, for example, is such an unimaginably complex process, and yet we're doing these things which using this technology which would have been used to do everything. We used to think of animation as something that wasn't like rocket science, but now it actually is.
Brilliant. I need to leave it there because I'm getting the nod. But
Okay.
I'm going to head back to the rain.
All right. Good luck.